20 bikers broke into my house while I was burying my wife. And what I found when I came home changed my life forever. David Chin was 63 years old when he buried Margaret after her 2-year battle with cancer. The funeral was on a Tuesday afternoon at St. Michael's Church. He came home expecting silence and emptiness. Instead, he found his front door hanging off its hinges. 20 motorcycles were parked on his lawn. Deep voices echoed from inside his home. David walked through his own broken door like a man with nothing left to lose. 20 massive bikers filled his living room, leather vests covered in patches, beards and tattoos everywhere. They were ripping his house apart piece by piece. One held his wedding photo. Another pulled books off shelves. A third checked behind his refrigerator. The biggest biker spotted David and charged toward him. "Where are they?" he demanded. "Where are what?" David asked, genuinely confused. "Don't play stupid, old man. We know what you've been doing." "I just buried my wife an hour ago," David said quietly. "I have no idea what you're talking about." The bikers exchanged uncertain looks. "Your wife?" Another biker asked carefully. "Margaret Chin. Cancer. Funeral was today." The leader pulled out his phone and checked something. His face went pale. "What's your address?" he demanded. 4127 Maple Street. Dead silence fell over the room. "We're at 4172 Maple Street," someone whispered. The numbers were reversed. They had broken into the wrong house. The leader's name patch said Tank, and his face showed pure horror. David looked around his destroyed living room. Margaret's china cabinet knocked over. Her teacup collection shattered across the floor. 40 years of collecting, gone in minutes. "You broke her china," David said, his voice cracking. He fell to his knees among the broken pieces. His fingers found a fragment of her favorite cup, the one with little roses that her mother had given her on their wedding day. He started sobbing, not for the china but for everything, for Margaret, for being alone, for coming home to chaos when he needed quiet. 20 dangerous men stood frozen, watching one old man cry on the floor. Tank knelt beside him slowly. "Sir, I don't know what to say. We made a terrible mistake." "What?" David managed through tears. "Why are you even here?" "We got a tip that 4172 Maple Street was being used for child trafficking. Kids held in the basement." David looked up in horror. "Next door?" "That's why we came in hard and fast. We thought seconds mattered." David thought about his neighbors. The Hendersons. Nice couple with a van that came and went at strange hours. "The Hendersons moved in about 2 years ago," David said slowly. "Right after the old couple died." Tank's eyes narrowed. "What else do you know about them?" "They keep to themselves. Van comes late at night sometimes. Basement windows are always covered with black plastic." Tank made a phone call. "Check 4172 right now. Go quiet." Half the bikers disappeared through David's back door. Tank stayed behind. "Sir, I'm going to fix everything we broke." "You can't fix her teacups," David said quietly. "You can't fix what mattered most." "No," Tank admitted. "But I can try to make this right somehow." 10 minutes passed. Then Tank's phone buzzed. His face transformed into something terrifying. "How many?" Tank asked through clenched teeth. "Call the cops now," Tank ordered. "Nobody leaves that house." He hung up and looked at David with haunted eyes. 7 children in the basement, ages 4 to 12, cages and locks. David's blood turned to ice. 7 children had been held captive 20 feet from where he and Margaret slept every night for 2 years. "The Hendersons seemed so normal," David whispered. "They always do," Tank replied grimly. "That's how they survive." Police sirens shattered the night within minutes. David watched as officers swarmed 4172 Maple Street with weapons drawn. They brought the children out one by one, scared and thin and blinking in the harsh lights. Each child wrapped in blankets and carried to waiting ambulances. The Hendersons were dragged out in handcuffs. Mrs. Henderson screamed that it was all a misunderstanding. Mr. Henderson said nothing at all, his face completely empty. David recognized some of those small faces from missing person flyers at the grocery store. Photos he'd walked past 100 times without really seeing. Tank stood beside him at the window. "This is why we do what we do. Police need warrants and paperwork in time. We just need an address." "You got the wrong address," David reminded him. "And still got the right outcome," Tank said. "Your information about the neighbors made the difference." FBI agents arrived within the hour. News crews followed. David's quiet street became a circus of flashing lights and yellow tape. Around midnight, the bikers returned, all 20 of them carrying tools and supplies. "Sir, we're fixing your house tonight," Tank announced. No arguments. For the next 6 hours, 20 bikers worked on David's home. They fixed his door and installed one stronger than before. They repaired walls and cleaned up every piece of debris. One biker named Tiny spent 3 hours gluing Margaret's teacups back together with steady hands. He couldn't save them all, but he saved most. "My grandmother collected these," Tiny explained. "I know what they mean to people." By dawn, David's house looked better than it had in years. Fresh paint on walls, squeaky floorboards fixed, broken fixtures replaced. Tank handed David a card with his phone number. "Anything you need ever, you call this number." "Why do all this for a stranger?" David asked. "Because we broke into your house on the worst day of your life, because we destroyed your wife's treasures. Because even when we make terrible mistakes we fix them. And because those 7 kids are free now, partly because you told us about the Hendersons instead of screaming at us to leave." David hadn't thought of it that way. His personal tragedy had led to their rescue. The FBI interviewed David the next day for hours. They wanted every detail about the Hendersons, their schedules, their visitors, their vehicles. Details he'd ignored became crucial evidence. The bikers stayed in touch over the following months. They visited regularly to check on David and bring food and make sure he wasn't drowning in loneliness. Tank explained that their club specialized in finding missing and exploited children. "We're not heroes," Tank said. "Just guys who got tired of seeing kids hurt with nobody doing anything about it." David started helping them on missions after that. Not as a biker but as invisible backup. An old grieving widower nobody would ever suspect. A sad old man makes perfect cover. Nobody looks twice at him sitting in parks or malls. Nobody notices when he's watching and reporting. David helped find 3 more missing children over the next year. 3 more families reunited. 3 more monsters arrested and caged. Margaret would have approved. She always loved children. They couldn't have any of their own, which had broken her heart for decades. Now David was helping save other people's children. Tank visited recently with a gift from the entire club, a custom leather vest with one patch that read, "Guardian." "You're one of us now," Tank said. "Honorary member for life." 20 bikers broke into David Chen's house while he was burying his wife. They destroyed his door and shattered her precious china collection. They also gave him a reason to keep living when he had none. A purpose beyond grief. A family when he was completely alone. Wrong house, wrong address, right outcome. 7 children went home because of a mistake. One old man found hope in the middle of chaos. Some call it the worst day of David's life. He calls it the day he found his new family. Margaret always said, "God works in mysterious ways." David believes that now more than ever.